like to introduce you to an amazing archer, historian, veteran, model maker, and keen storyteller. I first saw Kevin Hicks on YouTube when I was looking up archery videos a few years back. His skill at Warwick Castle and in the actual Sherwood Forest blew me away. How are you this fine day, Kevin?
I'm fine. I went out
Great.
for a walk earlier on with my little dog in the prairies in the middle of Canada, and I wish I hadn't have gone out for a walk in the middle of the prairies in Canada because it burnt my face.
Oh my.
It is that cold. It's only about 20 below, but there's a gentle, nasty little wind.
Oh, lovely. We've had a very mild winter where I live in Oklahoma. Has it snowed much there in Saskatoon?
We've had a couple of snow dumps, but it's eased off recently, and we've got a few mild bits of weather. The trouble we have, though, you get mild weather, melts the snow, then it freezes. So you got glass everywhere.
Ah.
Yeah, but we're kind of tough up here. You just get on with it. If you can afford it, come down to the States for a warm up and then come back.
You must be a hearty bunch to live up there. That is good. Well, I think if it works for you, I'll ask what you do currently and work backwards from there, if that's all right.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Can you please tell those joining us what you do now and how they can find you?
Well, my wife and I, we have a YouTube channel, The History Squad, which it started off quite by accident. I suppose, headhunted when I was back at Warwick Castle by a company who wanted me to do some serious kind of storytelling history films for Cambridge University. So I did five, two about the Nazis, two about medieval, and no, two about Tudor, and then one with me doing the medieval surgery, which I perfected at Warwick Castle. And we did them, and we put them on a shelf. Once they had them for 5 years, then they came back to us, and we just put it on a shelf. And I don't know, I can't remember how many years I did at Warwick, but I ended up in Canada. We got enough time lived, if you like. We needed to retire, and our son came out of the British Army after Afghanistan, and he'd lost all his friends were gone, and we both have a similar history there. So we've both, been in the proverbial muck, as it were, as soldiers, and come out the other side scarred and all that. So I thought I'll come and join my son. He got married, so we moved over. And I've got more friends now than I've had since I think I left the army, which is wonderful in Canada. And I says to Julie, my wife, the one day I said, you know those films we did for Cambridge Military, Cambridge University? I says they're on YouTube, aren't they? She said, I don't know where the link is. And she pulled the most amazing trick. She checked her old-fashioned cell phone number in the UK, and the answer phone or the messaging was still on it. So she got YouTube. Is it YouTube or whoever? No, it's not YouTube. It's Google, isn't it? Google to send the verification number to her phone, and she picked it up, and we rekindled our YouTube site. We managed to get in, picked it up, but that was just about 3 years ago, and now we have 300 films. Obviously, the backbone of the films is the medieval world, the archery world. But there's an awful lot of other things in there, from Victorian murders to my visits down to the States to have a look at Montezuma's castle and the well and so on and so forth. Deadwood, I did a few on Deadwood. I just love history. As a British soldier, I saw the world, and I saw some terrible, terrible things, and got involved in, war and all that kind of stuff. And but what I loved was people. If you can sit down, I mean, I met a shepherd's boy in the middle of the desert, right? I was on a solo patrol on my motorcycle. I was armed and just looking over some ground, and I heard a flute being played as I was looking through my binoculars and thought, what the hell's going on here? And over the ridge was a little Turkish Arab, the Turkish shepherd boy. Could have been 10, he could have been 14, but he weren't no older and he weren't no younger. And as soon as he saw me, he said, Merhaba Bashid. And I said, Merhaba, and what you used to do. And straight away, he opened up his little, almost like a handkerchief on a stick. And there he had shiftalia, the local sausage, the cheese, the halloumi, and all this kind of stuff. And he broke everything in half, cut his one egg in half, and offered it me. So I went back to the pannier on my motorcycle and got some of my rations out, and we shared. And there in front was the sheep. Now we could never figure out if they were sheep or goats, so we called them geese. Yeah, and we sat and ate our lunch in silence because I didn't speak enough Turkish or Arabic. He spoke no English. And when I went back to my motorcycle, I thought to myself, I've just seen something that could have been in the Bible. You know,
Yeah.
this kid had a rifle over his shoulder for the wild dogs, just a single shot bolt action thing. And I guarantee he could use a slingshot. Yeah. And it's that kind of thing that I love. You know, for instance, when I was a kid, I grew up in a family that had been mauled by the Second World War and by the First World War. My parents grew up through the Blitz. They were bombed. They were actually under the bombs. They both never realized, but they're full of shell shock.
Mm.
And my mom was actually damaged by it physically as well as mentally. And all my uncles fought in the war, grandparents, and they come back scarred. Some of them didn't come back, in fact. And so their photographs were always on the wall. And I was trained from a tiny little kid, hate the Germans, right? Hate the Japanese. Don't trust the Italians. Blah, 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 blah. And so I joined the army. And the first thing I find after training is you're going to Berlin. And I had to look up to see exactly where in Germany Berlin is, you know. And in those days, 1976, it's right in the middle of the Russian zone. And
Wow.
it's got a wall around it. And I was going, wow, I'm going there. Arrive in Berlin. Our headquarters are in the old Gestapo headquarters at the Olympic Stadium. It's all there. Massive, massive affair. All the swastikas have been ground out of the Eagles, but the Eagles are still there. All the statues, the Olympic Stadium, the whole lot is there. And I'm, wow, Berlin, you know. 2 days later, I'm in front of the officer commanding. We don't salute like this in the British Army. We salute with the open hand, right? And I go up to see the officer commanding. Sir, he says, you're not stopping, Corporal Hicks. You're going into Helmstedt. In my middle industrial English brain, he went, where the bloody hell's Helmstedt? And he says, you're going to be part of the Autobahn Control Detachment. You're going to be on those who patrol the East German corridor up and down from Berlin. I went, wow, sir, great. And off I went. There were 30 men and a couple of girls also. We had some female soldiers. That was all there was at this unit. And we had to live in the town. So I lived, shopped, drank, danced, German. And I totally and completely fell in love with these people and this place. I could talk about the war to some of the older people and I listened to their side. But I had this big revelation about ordinary people. Italy, I love Italy. France, you know? And I ended up, when I'd finished in uniform, I ended up doing 6 months for a Japanese company. And they worshipped me because I was a decorated British veteran. In their world, I would be one of the few people who's had to fight, you know, and met the Queen and all that kind of stuff. So I says to Julie, when we started our thing, the YouTube channel, we should look not just at pure English. We've got to have a look at the other side. Yeah. And that's where I'm at with my films and where I am at this present time, you know. Uh, Supposedly semi-retired, but I'm not really.
I have several friends that retired from my office, and they say they're busier now than they were when they had a 40-hour
Yeah,
job. I'll be there in a few years myself, I think. So, so you make these videos and you do have help in filming and editing from by Julie. Is that correct?
That's my wife, yeah, Julie. She learnt very early on that she could, because she's always been computer literate, and she learnt very early on that she could manipulate, change things, edit things, and now she spends a full day, sometimes 2 days, just on one film. But we're in a kind of a groove. We make sure that I perform with as little problems as possible.
Hmm.
Some of the problems I do have is in pronunciation of some of the old words,
Wow.
but we do our best, you know.
That's
Yeah.
understandable. Yeah. I watched some video the other day. Someone was talking about the Battle of Agincourt. Agincourt is what he said. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Oh
He was
yeah.
American, so I was like, okay, I don't know how much you know actually about what happened there. So,
Do you know I was taken there by HarperCollins, the big publishing company in the UK. Bernard Cornwell had written his trilogy, um, The Grail Quest, about the bowman who fought at Crécy and Poitiers. And then he was doing a follow-up one about Agincourt. And so he took me over and says, could I bring me bow and arrow and all that kind of stuff? And I actually shot on the English line at Agincourt, which
nice.
was quite a thing, quite something.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Did they ever have any kind of get together there in October or any other
They
time?
do I think there's more Frenchmen go than English, if you want the truth.
Hmm.
But it's a difficult place as well because they're not 100% sure who was what, who was where. It's one of, I mean, let's face it, 600 years ago. They still haven't found the mass graves, but they could be literally anywhere. Yeah, it's a vast. It's what some French people call the forgotten. It's the forgotten part of France because it's just rural and just farming. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Interesting.
quite something.
Love to go there. I don't know who would go with me. My wife is not uninterested in this kind of stuff, so that would be nice. They're crazy or Poitiers. Oh.
Yeah,
And I saw you
it's
said, oh, go ahead.
it's worth a trip.
That would
You
be
know, it's quite something. If somebody was to say to me, look, I want to go and have a look at a piece of medieval Europe, I'd say go to the south of France, Carcassonne. Carcassonne is a medieval town, a walled town, which Napoleon saved. People were burrowing through the medieval and Roman walls of this town, building their houses on with the wall as the central
oh.
part of the house. And
Mhm.
he says, no. He says, you knock them all down, you plug up the holes properly, clear the moat. This is French heritage. It's quite wonderful. And the English laid siege to I think everybody laid siege to Carcassonne. And I sat in the middle of the town just having a pint of local beer and one of their local sausages, saucisson. And I thought to myself, this is almost like an epicenter. Anybody who wants just to touch your toe into the medieval world, Carcassonne is the place to go. But don't go during the tourist season because you can't move.
So I'm writing some of these things down so I can look them up. Very nice. Let's see, you had speaking of Agincourt, I think you've done three videos you have on your YouTube channel, but the one I like the best, I guess, was from Warwick Castle several years ago, and you were told the story as though you were one of the archers that was at the battle itself.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
It's a, it's the good Lord there on my shoulder. When I was a soldier, I was told by a very dear Christian lady I knew. She says, you have an angel on your shoulder, Kevin, and he's looking out for you. And I smiled, and I tell you, man, the amount of bullets that missed me,
Oh,
I think
wow.
she was right. And I, I did eventually get hurt when I was a cop, and I was out of action for about 4 or 5 years, just convalescing, crutches, and all that kind. I had to have spinal surgery, and I used to try and keep my hand in. I used to go to schools to do voluntary, like cycling, what we call cycling proficiency in Britain, or just teaching the kids road safety because I'd had that terrible experience as a cop where a kid hadn't made it on the road. Terrible, terrible stuff. And one day the teacher says to me, "We're going to be just half an hour late next week." I says, "Why?" She said, "Oh, we're doing the English Civil War and we're doing a big presentation." I says, "Well, I used to be a reenactor." I says, "And I've got a musket and I'm still loaded and I'm still licensed. I've got all the gear. So I can come as a roundhead or cavalier musketeer." "Would you?" I said, "Yeah, I'll fire it." I said, it's only blank powder, it's black powder, but it's blank." And so after I'd done it, half an hour, the head teacher come up to me and he basically says, "Who are you?" I says, what do you mean, sir?" I said, "I'm just Kevin, the guy who comes." He says, "No, no, 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 no. You have kept 350 school children spellbound for half an hour. They have hung on your every word." And he told another school who told another school. And I'm doing for this other school, I've got insurance now, you know. And this teacher just, with the angel on my shoulder, said, "Kevin, it's such a shame you don't shoot the longbow." I said, "I've shot it since I was a child." I said, "I still shoot it." I says, "Not as often as I can because I'm still recovering." I says, "But it's my life. I've shot it since I was about 5 or 6." And she went, "Would you take us to Chepstow Castle, which was about 20 miles away in South Wales, where we lived at the time?" And I says, "Yes, seize the day." She says, "In costume?" I went, "Yes." Okay, I had a longbow and 12 arrows. I'd got 3 weeks, no sword, no costume. So I made one out of whatever I could find. I purchased a sword secondhand. I got a helmet secondhand. And I had been down to Chepstow, and Roger there, the custodian at the time, he said, "I'd love to have you." So there began my journey towards Warwick Castle. It was at a totally different castle, Chepstow, which I've done a nice video for. And an American tour group saw me, Tauk Tours, only for the rich people. And this lovely, lovely Texan lady, gosh, I can't remember her name now. She said, "Would you do an exclusive tour for us?" I said, "Well, yeah, as long as the castle's okay with it, you know." "Yep, no problems at all." While I was doing that, she says, "We go to Warwick Castle a lot. I wonder if you'd be able to come up." Now, Warwick's over 100 miles away from where I lived. And one thing or another, Warwick Castle got to hear about me. And I, without realizing, I was matching one of their archers from their Kingmaker display. I'd got the same gear and the same coat of arms because I'm a Warwickshire lad. That's where I was born, you know.
Wow.
And they actually came down, their executive came down to my house on the mountainside in South Wales or the hillside in South Wales and offered me a part-time contract, which led to full-time. And we moved then from South Wales to a little village near Warwick, and I became the Warwick Bowman. And we worked out that at the height, and this is going, I kept it up for quite a few years. I was shooting something like 50,000 arrows a year.
Oh
Um,
my.
it was it was ridiculous because I was doing at the height of it, I was doing 4 shows a day. So that's 48 arrows actually in the show, but 48 arrows practice, plus in between the shows, plus after work. And that will be from March through to November.
Oh my.
And we worked it out. And that's when I realized that I had this wonderful muscle memory. And nowadays people say, "Oh, he's not fully drawing or he's not doing this or he's not." I've been shooting the bow for 60 years. I know exactly what I'm doing. My favorite bow now is only a 40 pounder. I love it because I can enjoy it. I can shoot it. My bow that I've used since well, it was at Warwick with me, is now down to about 70 pound, which as far as I'm concerned is a hefty old bow. And boy, does it go, you know. And you get all these comments, oh, I shoot 120, and I go, carry on, enjoy it. You know, if that's your thing, have a go. But I get people coming and say, well, I've only got a 25 or I've only got a 35. And my joy is the fact they're shooting it and they're enjoying it. Do you know, it was a Warwick, I had a meeting with an American chap, and it was first thing in the morning, and this is where I used to use up a lot of arrows. I used to warm up. I think it must have been late summer, and I'm shooting away across the moat, and this is only about a 50-yard shoot. That's all it is. I used to shoot across the river, which was 90 yards, and that was spectacular stuff. But this warm up was just nice. I'm shooting away, and I knew there was a man watching me behind. I could feel him. I saw his shadow kind of thing. And I turned around, and if you imagine a John Wayne Western and a Cheyenne warrior steps off his horse,
Hmm.
powerful man, the high cheekbones, the tan skin, the black hair pulled back into a ponytail. Then put it into a three-piece vested business suit with a briefcase. And as I turned around, our eyes met. I went, wow. And he went, wow. Good morning. I said, good morning. I said, "You're obviously an American." He says, yeah. I says, are you Cheyenne or Sioux? And he went, what do you mean? And I says, your cheekbones. I says, you must be one of the Plains tribes. You must be. And he says, well, my father was Cheyenne, my mother was Sioux.
Whoa.
And he says, I've been watching you. And I said, go on. And he says, all my life, my grandfathers told me about the old bowmen of the Cheyenne, how they didn't aim the arrow, how they just drew, looked, and shot. And the thing they says is that the warrior was truly at peace when he drew his arrow back. And he said, I've been watching you. Now I have seen what they're talking about. And I stopped dead in my tracks and I says, do you know what? You're right. I am only at perfect peace when I'm drawing that arrow back and away it goes. That just that moment there. There's people have given it names, but the archer, this, that, and the other. But as far as I'm concerned, it's that tiny little bit of peace, and it's lovely when I pass it on to people. If somebody wants any tips or anything, and I watch them and they draw and they relax into the shot, and it's lovely, lovely.
It's very
Yeah.
stress relieving to shoot.
Oh, tell me, but that chap put me in touch with a bowyer who he got lots of problems, but I think he's back. Um, was it Blue River Bows? And he's down. I think he's Oklahoma actually, but he
Really?
was a Marine, and he had a lot of problems. So I lost touch with him, but he made me a wonderful bow, which I don't have now, and I regret not having it. I think it's Blue River, and but I think he's back in action. If it's not, if I've got the name wrong and you can't find it, just drop us an email and I'll look it up for you.
Nice. Blue River.
Yeah.
Was it an Osage wood bow? Those are popular
Mhm.
around the state of Oklahoma.
No, it was Osage and it was laminated with rattlesnake skin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. They have a gathering sometime in March here. It's called Bow Jam or something in the north central part of the state. And I wonder if he would be over there because they have a bunch of bowyers over there and they go bring in all their equipment and they'll custom make bows for people or take orders. It's a 2 or 3 day thing. Bet they would be there if they're in
He
a
might be. I'm not sure how he's doing. I just know that he's surfaced again. So that'd be good.
nice. Okay,
Yeah.
ask if you said you like to give tips. Someone's asked me to help with the Renaissance Fair this spring, where they want me to shoot arcing shots at the same time they're firing a trebuchet at a little fake castle. This might be 80 or 90 yards, and we have a lot of wind here, so I know it'll allow for windage. But if you have any ideas for any tips, I only have a 40-pound draw weight as well on doing arc shots. I've only done it a few times myself.
What? Right. Here's a. This is an exact copy of one of your early arrows. Right. This is a copy of the arrow that was found in the tomb of Henry V. Now, if you look at those fletchings, can you see how narrow they are?
Yeah.
Just to there, at the widest point, they're less than half an inch.
Okay.
Right now, got another one here. This is what people use an awful lot of the time, which is great, no problems at all. But if you want to go some distance, you need the least resistance,
Ah,
and this will do it easily.
very good.
Yeah, and also it goes down to the practice, doesn't it?
Yes.
And how to drop it. But I'm going to give you a little tip now, something I'm researching. There is so much stuff about did arrows penetrate armor? Did arrows, do this? Did arrows do that? Well, I've been reading about original text in French. Obviously, it's been translated for Kev, but it's talking about Constantine's needle. If you imagine a long bodkin or even a short bodkin, it's as far as a medieval mind is, it's like a needle. It is a bodkin actually means a kind of needle. And he's talking about the high amount of wounds through the feet and ankles and shins. So you could be going into battle, you can have the best armor in the world. But if you're going through a muddy field, you can't wear your sabatons, you can't wear your foot or lower leg armor. You
Ah.
simply can't. And they're going on and on and on about the devastating effect of these men, sometimes pinned to the ground, because I know an arrow will go straight through a foot, no problems at all. And then when the bowmen then attack with their falchions and axes, can you imagine the poor French, especially the guys at the front who are suddenly, they can't move. Yeah, they're in agony. And all of a sudden, there's these bowmen, and the bowmen don't come on as one guy. They come on in their companies. They're organized. They're professional soldiers. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I know how a British soldier will fight. And, I'm of that ilk. And we are vicious. We really are. When it comes down, we're the nicest people in the world. We really are. But don't upset us. Yeah. I mean, if you upset us, we separate and we become the United States of America. Yeah. 1776. Yeah. Don't upset the British because they'll then divide. Yeah. And it's I've got folks on both sides, you see, going back in that my heritage is as much American as it is British, but hey. So it's interesting the arc of the arrow. If you're shooting at the enemy 200 paces, so Henry V apparently ordered them to start open shot at 200 paces, so they're going to arc those arrows. And it makes perfect sense that if you're at the front, if you're in the front two or three ranks, those arrows are going to start hitting the ground in front of you.
Hmm.
And there are going to be lots of tootsies, lots of exposed ankles. And so I'm now researching this and I'm going to make a film about it. I'm going to have a look into the whole idea that, hey, maybe we're looking too much into do arrows penetrate armor? Do arrows do this? Do arrows do? Because I know what an arrow will do. It'll go straight through a bloody foot. Yeah.
I remember a video you said you'd you'd seen someone somewhere and they had armor on, and yes, they said you couldn't penetrate their armor, so you started shooting in the gaps of their armor, their elbows and neck, shoulder, under the armpits.
It's they were using the blunt arrows.
Hmm.
And I says to them, I says, look, don't forget, I've got a powerful bow here. Oh, we're okay, we're in the armor. And afterwards, when we interviewed the one guy, I'd hit him, I think there was the first shot. And it lifted his helmet up and
Oh,
bruised, and then the strap bruised his throat. But by then I'd shot him in the groin,
oh,
and all the padding and everything that he got saved him, yeah. But he dropped to his knees, raised his hand to say, and and the next guy doing this, I
Mhm.
actually saw the gap in his lower cannon here, and I was able to put an arrow down it.
Wow.
And that's at about 30 yards. But I'll tell you, I was starting to panic because the arrows are going down and bouncing off this armor. But if I'd have thought about it, really, I should have shot him in the foot. Yeah. Now I've been reading about it. I'm thinking, yeah, because you can't go nowhere if you've got an arrow in your foot.
Hmm.
You know, it's like when you stub your toe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very nice. Wow.
Yeah.
And we're
Just to let you know, your American friends and all that kind of stuff. I was in the American Army for a while.
on a
The
shooting
British,
team.
I know, yeah, that's it. And
Okay.
the Team Rebellion, the British gave me to the Americans, and I really had some good friendships. And down at Helmstedt, I struck up a really good friendship with an American military policeman because I was British military police. And Puglisi was his name. And we both belonged to the Turtle Club and all that kind of stuff. He was the guy who shot the Boston bomber.
Oh wow.
I just saw the documentary the other day, and I'm going, "Oh, that's Pugsy. I knew him when he was just like me."
Wow.
Yeah, great, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. My
Oh,
brother
yeah.
was a military policeman in Augsburg, Germany, but there's probably after you were gone, late 80s, mid 80s through early 90s, I guess he was
Oh
there.
no, I came out in '85.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But the Americans always had the nice, picturesque towns. They must have thought, Patton when he was coming in and so on and so on. Said, hey guys, let's not go left. Let's not go straight on. Let's head down towards that part there.
Bavaria, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I saw that on Facebook last year you put on an archery demonstration at a medieval fair in Saskatoon. Is that the first time you've been part of a medieval or Renaissance fair?
Yeah, I'm not part of it anymore.
Ah,
It's a shame, but politics in reenactment, I can't touch it.
okay.
So what I do is I do little workshops for Saskatoon. Um, well, the University of Saskatchewan, the Museum of Antiquities there. And I mean, I've got one in a few weeks actually, where I go and do a castle workshop and we get the models of the castles out and give it to all those kids and all that kind of stuff. And when I tell them I used to work at Sherwood Forest, and they're going, is there a Sherwood Forest? And I go, yeah, and I used to shoot underneath a 1,200-year-old oak tree that was renowned to have been Robin Hood's hideout kind of thing. And they're going, really? You know, I've been so lucky. I really have. Yeah.
That would be that's one of my questions. Being living here in the United States, I cannot imagine how someone would get that kind of a job. Have there always been archers at that tree or in the last 100 years, or did you talk to someone who ran the forest and
No, they used to have a medieval fair. I think it's still going on where they had jousting and they had jesters and all this kind of stuff. And they had a guy who used to go around as Robin Hood, but he couldn't shoot. Yeah, he's just recently, just the past few weeks, passed away, bless his
oh no.
cotton soul, God rest his soul. And he said, oh, you want to speak to Kevin at Warwick Castle? He's the guy you want to get up. So they phoned me up and I says, oh, Sherwood Forest. Yeah, I'll come up and have a look. And we actually stood under this great oak, this major oak, as they call it. And I said, I can shoot there. I said, the audience are here. They go away from the target. That's great. And they come round behind me. I said, no, I've got no problems with this at all. I says, yeah, I can do that. And I think I must have been there 15 years, on and off throughout the season, doing the medieval or just doing special weekends. And it was wonderful because it was when I was only a small child, I was only five or six. My father took me to that oak tree and he pushed me inside it because it's hollow inside. And he says, this is where Robin Hood kept his gear. This is where Robin Hood came. And I remember I've probably said it on one of my videos when I was a young teenager or mid-teens. My father, what are you going to do with your life? You're drifting. What are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to be Robin Hood. He says, don't be stupid. You can't be Robin Hood. I'll get you an apprenticeship in the factory. So he got me that, and in no time at all, I knew I didn't want that, so I joined the army. But now I remember, well, my dad's still alive. He's just 91 now, I think he is almost. But he says to me, he says, I've never forgotten getting you your first proper longbow and you saying you wanted to be Robin Hood. And then when I used to phone up and say, he's Kev there, so now he's up at Sherwood Forest, he's doing Robin Hood this weekend. He says, it made me realize that you must never question anybody's ambition, you know? Yeah. Going to be Robin Hood. Yeah, I was Robin Hood for years, and people still call me Robin Hood. I had
Fantastic.
one cheeky little kid, he says to me, he says, you're too old to be Robin Hood. I says, you cheeky beggar, I'm his granddad. Oh, right, okay.
That is great. Is that experience inside the major oak? Is that what made you want to start shooting a longbow, or you already started?
I went straight home and made one.
Ah,
We'd moved, in fact, not straight away because I was still living in industrial Birmingham. And we got moved out, what's called to the overspill, to a town that was building new houses. Nowadays, they call it social housing in Canada. In England, it was council houses. And right on the corner of where I lived was the entrance to the countryside. And a half-hour walk up through the lanes was a forest. So in no time at all, I'm running round in my school clothes with a feather tucked behind my spectacles because I wore glasses in those days. And I was Robin Hood. And it was great when we played Cowboys and Indians because I was the only Indian and I shot back. Yeah. And then I think I was 9 or 10. And my dad said one year, he says, what do you want for Christmas? Because he was sick to death of buying me a soccer ball because I'm no good at soccer.
ah,
And I said, I want a real bow and arrow like Robin Hood. And I thought he'd just taken it with a pinch of salt. Well, on Christmas Day, there was a bow and 3 arrows. And because I was dangerous, because it was a real bow and it was real arrows, and people were saying, you got to do something with him. My next door neighbours took me to the archery club on the green outside Lichfield Cathedral, where bowmen had been shooting for 600, 700 years. And it was like an injection of history. Yeah.
uh-huh.
I remember turning round as we're coming out the entrance there, and somebody says, there was a battle here in the Civil War. And I'm looking at him. And then they says, our town here, Lichfield, it was on the interface between the West Saxons and the Mercians, and then the Danes and the Saxons. This is real stuff. And I was bitten. I was totally bitten. All those things. And the photograph hanging on the wall of my Uncle Albert, who was killed in Normandy. The family history. My missing great grandfather killed on the Somme. Who was he? Why? As a little kid, I was always asking the questions.
Hmm.
And, I passed it on to not my eldest son. No, he went his own way and he's great. He did incredibly well in the army and he's got a lovely family here in Canada. But my youngest son, at the age of 5, started working with me at Warwick Castle.
Oh,
And the one day, Julie and I are on the moat, and we're just having a bit of lunch. She bought me a picnic lunch for me and Joshua. And he's there in his little Warwick coat and his little helmet and that, with his bow and arrow. And he suddenly went, oh, how did he go? Let this story the good man teach his son, and ne'er shall crisp and Crispian go by from this day to the ending of the world that we in it shall be remembered. And I'm looking at this 5-year-old kid. We few, we happy few, we band of, and he just did the whole lot. And I'm just going, and he ended up not shooting the longbow. He can shoot it. He still does reenactment, but he's a billman. Yeah, but hey, he's steeped. He loves his history, and when I go back to England, we spend a month every year, It's always we go somewhere. Yeah, some
The different
historical.
castles to film to do tour videos.
Yeah, well, I'll do those on. We do those on our own, but then we do
Ah.
other things for fun. You know? Yeah, it's lovely.
Nice. You said he's a billman. What is that? A billman, is that a certain kind of weapon?
Yeah, it's called a glaive. Have I got one here? I think I might have one. It's all right. I'm just preparing a major. I'm going to have about 1,000 figures for my Wars of the Roses figures.
Ah.
And this is, can you see those?
Okay, yes.
Yeah, with the glaive.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's how he reenacts. But these are part of my future army, my dining room table. I take it over, I do, and it's just buckets of bowmen and billmen just waiting to be painted now. So there you go.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
Because there'll be about, I think there might be as many as 10 or 15 films in the War of the Roses series. Yeah.
That's something I've not looked at yet. The War of the Roses, Civil War. I've just been watching mostly your videos and reading books now on the Hundred Years' War because I didn't know how they split off or anything like that. I guess I should start watching and looking at that video. But the division of the country is like,
Well,
I
it's
don't
gonna, what's
know.
happening, my next two films are about the last two battles, the last two major battles of the Hundred Years' War, where the French win.
Yeah.
And but what I'm gonna do in a back story to it is what's happening in England,
Mm.
because England is falling under Henry VI, I think it was. It's falling to civil war. Is it not? It's not Henry. Is it Henry VI? Oh, just thought that I think it might be. Anyway, uh, it really is very sad the way it all fell apart. But there again, I mean, we're doing a film tomorrow. We're going to shoot it tomorrow or Tuesday about Aethelwulf, who was Alfred the Great's father. Alfred the Great is supposed to be the Saxon who saved England and blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
But behind him is his father, and you're talking 850 something AD. And halfway through his reign, he suddenly goes, right, I'm going to divide my reign, Wessex to you, Aethelbald, and the other half to his brother or his other son. And then he went to Rome for a year. But he took Alfred with him, his young son, and
Hmm.
left him to be educated because Aethelwulf was totally literate. So if you consider you had a king on the throne who could read and write, could do all the arithmetic, all the math, could speak a couple of different languages, and he was the one who was looking forward. I need to have sons. I need to be able to move forward. After my death, we need a lineage. And that lineage was the Saxon kings, yeah, who unfortunately were killed at the Battle of Hastings. But that's a whole different story, isn't it?
Yes. That's
Yeah.
good forethought on how to carry on the country. Like people should do that for their families till and their businesses, their jobs, and
That's,
Renaissance.
I think that's a trouble with some of the politicians of the world. I'm not going to mention politics, but is they're short term,
Hmm.
you know. Strong politicians who look ahead, they're really worth something. But I'm not going to go into politics because it's a dangerous subject.
That it is. That it is. And you cannot convince anyone they have the wrong opinion on Facebook.
No, no, that's it. That's one of the problems, isn't it?
Yes. That's why I like going to Renaissance fairs. They don't talk about politics.
Yeah,
They might talk about Henry V or
yeah.
some French.
I did a I can lecture on the rise of the Nazis and the Holocaust. I have such a deep knowledge of it, and I've done so much research and been to so many places. And I've been to Auschwitz and Birkenau, and I went back to Birkenau because Birkenau is the death factory. And when people go on about the Jews or this or that, and I think to myself, Go to Birkenau. Just spend a half an hour there being quiet and have a look at it. And then you'll be a different person. But of course, people are, they, as you said, they've all got an opinion, haven't
Yeah.
they? But you're not allowed to have your own. Yeah. But hey, yeah. Was it? I said to somebody who was going on about something to me, and I says, "You've never been to war, have you?" What do you mean? I says, "You've never really seen horror or danger." It was a lady, and she went, "Oh no." I says, "Then what the hell do you know? You know what you're talking about? You're talking at me, yeah, but you've never seen what really happens when politics goes wrong."
Hmm.
And she was, in the end, she was kind of going, "Yeah, I think veterans should stand up actually a little bit more, but there again, we're a dangerous breed, and we do like our little Scotch."
A dangerous breed, and like my uncle, he was in World War II in the Pacific, and I've found a lot of veterans do not like to talk about what they've experienced or the buddies that they lost or the carnage that they saw. So maybe that holds them back from talking a little more.
Yeah, yeah, it does. You know, you're okay when you're with. It's funny, isn't it? When you're with other veterans, you don't talk about the crap. You talk about the funny bits, about what guys were like. You know.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's yeah, that's a whole different story. That one. Yeah.
Uh, thank you for your service. Thank you for keeping back the Red Menace in the 80s and 90s. And I guess
Yeah, I was right amongst them as well. I was right, behind the Russian lines for, was it two and a half years doing that stuff in Germany. That was quite an eye-opener.
were you still
Yeah.
there when the wall came down in Berlin?
No, I was a policeman in London when it came down.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, I did extra service actually when I come back from being a soldier around the world. I was a British soldier in England, and I ended up uh, helping the Americans with their different things. But that's all secret. I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah, yeah, but it's kind of one of my bees in my bonnet. Because I was embedded with the Americans, because I know so much about your history, because I've traveled in the States and met and been amongst so many American citizens, I really like you guys. And when I hear people from abroad, oh, the Americans and all of this, like I had a Frenchman, I says, go down to Omaha Beach. And like, what? I says, see the American Americans that are buried there. Go over to the Meuse-Argonne. See that cemetery there from the First World War. Yeah? You're so quick to judge. I said, have you ever been over there? Have you ever sat down and had a beer with a Yank, Or have you ever been down to the Wild West and actually seen what the country is really like? No. I said, well, shut up. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I never liked the M16 though. I will be honest with you. I did prefer our SLR.
Did it jam up too much on you?
It was just like a Mattel Toys limited thing, you know? Yeah. But hey, yeah, old soldiers never die. They just fade away.
Really?
That's all right. Yeah. Yeah.
You've covered a lot of the questions on in some of your answers that I was going to ask. I've only got a few left. How do you decide which topics to make your videos about for the History Squad?
Our Patreons on our YouTube channel, they have a choice once a month. They can pick one of four, which we sit down and we have a think. Other ones, sometimes I'll remember something from one of my musings or something, and we'll pick it from that, you know. I've got a musket that I bought, which is actually from the time of the Revolutionary Wars, but it's got a history. It's actually a hybrid. It's some guy way back in 1770 whatever actually took a British brown bess musket, stripped all the woodwork off it, and replaced it with a French Chateau or whatever it's called musket, because the woodwork on the French one is more comfortable and it gives you a foresight
Oh.
So I then said, well, what's going on here? And they said, oh, yeah, it was common in the colonial times to take damaged muskets, refurbish them with French bits, and you have a more comfortable and a more accurate musket, but still with the hard hitting caliber of the British Brown Bess.
Hmm.
So I've got that in my back pocket to have a look at the Revolutionary Wars. But I will straddle the ocean because I totally understand where the Yanks are coming from. And I totally know what was going on in Britain at the time. You know, there was just to illustrate how wrong the ordinary people can feel or be. I have a book written by Private Wheeler of the 52nd of Foot, who fought Napoleon's army from the beginning to the end. And at the very end of the book, he says, I wrote home to my mother and told her I'm not coming home anymore. And he said, I was sat at a cafe outside of Paris with my friend Pierre, who was one of Napoleon's old guard. He said, we faced each other at Talavera. What a fight that was. But Mum, Mother, I'm sat here drinking fine red wine and cognac. Bread, I never knew the taste of bread until I come to France. Cheese and ham. Oh, every afternoon I meet Pierre and we sit and we talk and we laugh. Why did we fight these Frenchies? Why? And I then went and had a look. Why? Why did we? Why did the British get involved in the Napoleonic Wars? And it was because of the aristocracy. They
Hmm.
were terrified of the French Revolution spreading. So were the Austrians, so were the Russians. Can you imagine if the world was, hey, look, we've got these fantastic baguettes that we have. Why don't you come over and have a picnic with us? We'll come over and we'll try your pies, you know? I mean, when you go down into New York and you go, you know, what's any oh, there's an Italian deli, they do some incredible sandwiches.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think we should base the world economy on food and
Ah,
drink.
that would be great. That would be great. Get a
You
good
know?
exchange rate going,
Yeah.
different sandwiches and
Yeah.
pizzas and
Yeah. Well, that's just, I mean, one of the first thing I did when I was with the Americans was they says, do you want a cheeseburger? I'd never had one in my life.
ah,
1976, 77, I've never had a cheeseburger. McDonald's in the UK and in Europe didn't exist.
oh wow.
And so from the PX came a cheeseburger and fries. And then I learned about these things called pickles, Sloppy Joes and corn dogs and things like this, you know, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, I'd never had a pizza till I
Oh,
was till I went to the States. I'd never had a pizza. Yeah. So it goes to show that the fun you can have and the brotherhood. That's you asked me quite early on about people and that what drives me, and it's the brotherhood. Yeah. Yeah, that's it for truth.
that's good. That's really good. You have a good outlook towards life there and harmony between nations. That is really good. We don't need to be fighting and killing each other. We do need to get along. And
Well, it's not the nations, it's the people, isn't it?
the people running running the nations.
Yeah, they need to calm down and have some pizza.
Yes.
Yeah,
I was brought up
yeah,
the same way you were. I remember my parents told me, I guess we went to pick my brother up at the airport when he came back from Germany. And I don't know if I was 8, 10, and I hid behind a pole. My mom reminded me of this. She said, why are you hiding behind a pole? I said, there's a Japanese guy coming off the plane. So, yeah, I'd been kind of brainwashed as
yeah,
well. And that was in the 70s, 30 years after World War II.
yeah, yeah. Do you know we got a guy in the Royal Canadian Legion where I'm a member, and straight away I picked him up. He's German. He's in his 90s now, or no, late 80s, and he still comes for his little brandy. So I talked to him, and he prefers to speak English as opposed to me talking to him in German. Um, and I asked him the one day, I said, "So you were a child during the war, yeah?" And yeah, yeah. I said, "Were you in the Blitz?" He said, yes. He said, I was 5, same age as my mother. So I says to him, I says, Howie, what was it like? And it was almost word for word what my mother had said. A 5-year-old girl in the middle in industrial England under the bombs,
Hmm.
the sound of the sirens, the sound of the aeroplanes coming for them. In Munich, exactly the same.
Wow.
And I, oh, it really kind of hit me hard because it's the futility of it, you know? And yeah, but hey, we're still at it, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But hey,
Someday it'll be like Star Trek and we'll all be working towards the same goal, all on the same side or something like
oh,
that.
don't start me on that because I think that's lovely. What's that series when the waitress gave the guy the Leonard Nimoy napkin that she picked from the restaurant, and the guy goes berserk because he has the DNA of Leonard Nimoy. I forgot the name of the show now.
I'm not sure.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Well,
Just yeah.
hmm,
Star Trek. Wouldn't it be great?
yes. Some year, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything you would like to add that I haven't thought to ask or
No, just keep in touch the way you do. It's nice to see where you are and all that kind of stuff. And if I'm coming down, is it Oklahoma you're at?
yes, yes.
Yeah, if I'm coming down to Oklahoma, as we say, I'll let you know I'm coming down that way.
That would
Yeah.
be fantastic. Do you ever go to Renaissance fairs? Or do you find them kind of contrived or
No, I think it's just great that people play and people enjoy, but I got temporarily banned from the Society of Creative Anachronism.
anachronism?
Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
it. I was doing a couple of weeks in Denver from Warwick Castle. I'd been asked to go over and could I do a couple of performances and that kind of thing. And I was, oh, could you go up? Could you put your gear on and come up the mountains at the we've got this lodge and we've got the society of da 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 da. They weren't ready for Kevin. They just weren't. It was nice and it was lovely,
Uh-huh.
but I made a girl cry because apparently I have a mean look. And I was politely asked, or the people who were with me were politely asked, could you take him away? He's scaring those ladies over there.
Oh my goodness.
But I'd only been out in the army, what, 10 years? So, yeah, but I'd love to go to a Renaissance fair. I'd like to come and have a look, because it's good. It's a
Hmm.
relief. Call it fantasy if you wish, or reenactment. I don't care what it is. It's people having a good time.
Yes.
It's like when I see the American Civil War reenactors. People go, "Oh, that guy's, he's too fat. He wouldn't have been a Confederate." Or look at that guy there. Is this? And I'm saying to them, look at that guy there. Has spent all the money on that kit. He spent all the money to get there, and he's actually recreating probably what his ancestors went through.
Hmm.
And they go, "Oh, I never thought of that." And that's the thing, isn't it? People don't often think, and I love it. I love it. Some of the best dressed grenadiers and things from the wars, the Revolutionary Wars and the Wars of 1812 have been American reenactors, reenacting British.
Oh,
So hats off to them, If that's what you want to do and that's part of your heritage, go for it, kid. Enjoy. And that's what I've always said, if people say to me, just to finish on, I had a chap who was longbow, but up to competition standard. I've never bothered with that. I did once and I won. Yeah. But I thought it's not fair because I shoot every day as a living. Yeah. But this guy, and he was really totally broken because he was going down to the club and he was, he said, "Look, could I help him?" And I said, "Yeah, meet me at this cow field, at this pasture." And I put a simple garden stick, a cane of wood, against a bale of hay. I said, "Hit the stick." He couldn't hit the stick. I said, "What are you aiming at?" And he said, "Oh, I'm aiming at the stick." I says, "Oh, don't aim. Do yourself a favour, just shoot the bloody stick." And he went, "Do you mean?" I says, "Watch me." And I went, I said, oh, right next to the stick. Got the stick. And he went, you're not aiming, are you? I said, no, I'm just looking at the stick. Within a few minutes, he was on, and then whack, whack, whack.
Wow.
And I said, the problem you've got now is you'll go back to that club and they won't like the way you're shooting. But take no notice of them. Did you enjoy what we've done today? And he says, oh, yeah. And he bought me a nice bottle of scotch as a thank you when I saw him again. And the last time I heard, he was shooting and enjoying it. That's the thing that's missing. It's enjoying it. If you're going to be a sports bowman, go to the Olympics. You're a target shooter. If you're going to shoot the longbow, if you're going to shoot the American flat bow, then enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, have some fun with it. If you're going to hunt with it, then hunt, but be good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I like
So
that.
that's me. Okay.
That's very good. Well, I do so much appreciate you joining today and putting up with me last Monday night when I was having connection
Oh,
problems.
it's okay. Don't worry. Yeah, we're in the frozen north, don't forget. Okay, then. Right. I shall go and back to my life.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you, Julie, as well. I hope you have a great
Yeah.
evening.
Oh, she's next door. I think she's having a glass of wine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
just me.
All
So
right.
I'll have to find a way how I turn it all off. But
Okay, I can stop the transmission from my end, but the rest of
okay. And then it'll all come up on my end then. Right.
okay.
God bless and keep safe. Yeah.
You as well. Thanks, Kevin.
Bye bye now.
Take care.
And you.